Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Eddie Z on the line, and he's a founder and CEO over at EZ Trading Computers. Eddie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. Looking forward to it.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to talk about the truth about trading tech and get into trading tech in general and really figure out, why this is such an important thing that's at times overlooked, the technology side of things, why your trading computer might be costing you money quietly and you don't even know it. We got a lot to talk about here, but before we get into all that, Eddie, I'm just curious, how'd you get into this business where you were helping people with trading tech? Where'd that start?
It's a long story. I'll try to keep it as short and to the point as I possibly can. My upbringing was a little outside the norm. My father was a commodities futures trader. So he was actually trading energy futures and platinum futures on the floor of the New York Mercantile Exchange. We're talking in the 70s.
So your legacy, that's insane. That's really cool. Go ahead.
It is pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And so my dad started bringing me to work with him when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old during like Christmas breaks, and just being on the floor, being around men screaming, shouting, behaving badly had a huge influence on me. I thought
what year was that again,
really cool.
What year again was that, just roughly?
Started in like 77, 78.
Wow.
So I was like maybe 7, 8 years old.
That's so cool. Good.
It was. And then in high school, when my dad would bring me to work with him, because I would beg him to go because I really enjoyed the energy.
Yeah.
He started to teach me about the markets and the chart patterns that the markets follow. And I became quickly enamored with this idea of charting, or what essentially is a price graph.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was always like, on the technology side, I was kind of a computer nerd growing up. I had a buddy who got an Apple II computer back around 80, 81. And he had already set up something called an electronic bulletin board. People from around the world were calling into his computer, one call at a time, and then he would put the handset of the phone into these little suction cups, and their computers would talk to each other, which is kind of like the predecessor of the internet, a website.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So when I was 10 or 11, I started a campaign to my parents to get a computer for the holidays. And what showed up under my tree was not an Apple II. It was a Commodore VIC-20, which was essentially a toy that really didn't work. So after playing with this thing all day as a kid, when my parents went to sleep, I got a screwdriver out and I pried it open to try to figure out what was wrong with it, to make it bigger, stronger, and faster. And that was the trigger that got me into computers. And so I've always been pretty technologically oriented. And after college, I became a stockbroker. I was a stockbroker for 17 years. I used to have remember the big old computer screens, the big giant ones? I would have 4 of those on my desk. And a lot of the other guys in the office would be jealous of that. So I figured out how to do surgery on those old computers to have them support more monitors. So that's kind of how it all came together, the technology and the markets.
What was it like when you started to see like the shift from, on the floor trading to people going upstairs or it being more computer based? Like, what was that like for you to witness that evolution?
That's a really interesting question. That's a really interesting question. So in the stock market, electronic trading had been going on when I started. So the idea of the NASDAQ, which started actually in the 60s, the NASDAQ was to create an electronic market where the orders did not have to be routed to the New York Stock Exchange, which was still a live, open outcry market. Now, so that was kind of the beginning of what we would call electronic trading. And then over time, so like the commodities markets, like where they trade the S&P 500 and gold and everything, that stayed live for a very long time. All the way into the 2000s. There was a holdout because there was an opportunity for stealing. Now, look, I'm a Wall Street guy, but it is true that Wall Street tends to design products and markets around trying to rip off the little guy. And that's just the truth. I can't deny it. It's pretty obvious. So if traders out there need to know that that's out there and to be careful. So, that's why the commodities complex hung on for so long with the live trading because it gave more room for sneaky things on behalf of the trading outfits. But gradually, it really just all went electronic around 2007, 2008. So the live floor trading totally went away then. And so like when you see CNBC today and they say, we're on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, it's really just like a Hollywood studio. It's not, there's some trading that goes on, but it's not what it used to be. It's totally different. But what it's done is it's given people tremendous access to trade in their pajamas from their house.
So circling back to now, it seems to me like with what you're doing with easy trading, like kind of the market over time moved to your skill set, into what mattered, into what you enjoy. Correct me if I'm off on this, but the technology side of things and the computer side of things, like that's where, going back to when you were a kid, that was a piece of like what interested you as well. Like talk to me about starting easy trading and kind of what led to that.
Sure. So being a stockbroker all the way into the late 2000s, I saw the game had changed. When the market crashed, the tech wreck, 2000 to 2002.
Yeah.
So I had started I'll just bring it back. It was one level to answer that question. When I started in the 90s, I was, as a stockbroker, I loved technology and I loved the technology stocks. So I was in the right place at the right time. I was recommending all the big names during that era. First, it was just like PC related, Intel, Microsoft. Then it was networking like Cisco, and there was a company called Sun Microsystems. And then this little thing called AOL came public. And anything that had a .com, I was just in the right place at the right time. And the market went up for like 8 years in a row. When I started, the NASDAQ was maybe 725. And then by 2000, it would hit 5,000. So it had this ridiculous run. And it, for such a long time, relatively for a guy in his 20s, it's like 6-7 years in a row, all I did was make people money. I thought I was some kind of genius. But when the market collapsed, then I really had to figure out how to trade.
And what years were these again, just to kind of give us a little bit of context?
I started after college in 94 as a stockbroker. And it there was some dips along the way. The second half of 2000 the peak was March of 2000. The bottom, believe it or not, didn't bottom out till March of 03. It was a very long, painful bear market.
So I got to tell you, Eddie, I got to tell you, during this time period, and I'm laughing because I remember thinking from my perspective, very similar to what you were saying, but I started in 1998 at Raymond James and Associates. I was in high school. I was 11th grade of high school, and I was in their IRA department. And so all the brokers and things like that would be coming in, and I'd be seeing their expense accounts and what they're doing. And I'm like, basically, all you have to do is invest in .com. Why am I going to college? Now, of course, I did go to college and all of that stuff, and so I left in 2000. So when I say I was like, how did I miss the tech wreck? I went to college. I was so young. Obviously, I wasn't licensed. That's a given, like at that age. But I went to college, and then halfway through college, I see 2002, and I'm like, man, do I ever want to go back into finance? This hurts. I guess it's a little harder. But then fast forwarding the story, I started at my first big firm. Like I had did some other things before, like for a year or two, whatever. But I started at my first big firm, and it was 2007. It was the absolute height of the market. If you look at a bar chart, the first day was was it 2006 or 2007? My memory's a little foggy, but I don't
right in there. It was right around the beginning where it started to really top out and roll.
All you have to do is look at a chart, and whatever the top, the exact top of the market was, that was my higher day and my first day of work, and it was down ever since from my day as my first licensed representative position, and it went down ever since. I'm like, man, am I supposed to be in this business? What's going on? I just had to share that one with you, Eddie, because we were going through some similar experiences, but different. And I worked for all the big ones before I had an RIA, and then eventually exited and been in media now for 9 years full time. But that was Vanguard, so that was like my training wheels. I just got started out of college.
You were with a real company, like a very reputable outfit. So
I got lucky. I didn't know what was going on. I knew what was going on, but I got lucky. That's obvious. Assets were flowing that way because of what was going on during that time. So they were big winners of that, just in terms of brand reputation and their product type. So when everybody's carrying boxes out, to my knowledge, they didn't. Oh no, I know this for a fact. Actually, they didn't let off a single person. So it was one of those things. But not to derail this, Eddie, but I just had to share that with you because I'm cracking up.
Yeah, that's
like,
awesome.
When you
It's awesome because you
like
got me.
that,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what was happening.
Boom or bust on Wall Street.
Yeah. So I want to.
And right now we're booming again.
Yeah, I want to circle back to this point because I want to make sure we nail this one home. And the reason why I want to get into some of your backstory is really because, I mean, I do lots of interviews. I've interviewed over 6,000 people, but to get, like, I've had some of the old market wizards, the trading wizards on here. I've had some other individuals, but that experience you had being, 7 years old and being in that open cry, like, just environment, the next generation, they won't even know what that was. Like, at best, there's going to be when we're all gone, at best, there's going to be a old documentary. Like, what was that? So I try to do my part.
I always like to refer to the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy.
Oh yeah,
and Dan Aykroyd.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little bit exaggerated at the end of the movie, but it's not all that different. The level of insanity, and it was actually filmed on the New York Mercantile Exchange. Even though they were trading orange juice in the movie, it was the same pit. It was the same floor that I worked on. So it's kind of a fun way somebody wants to, because it's a Christmas movie. Most people know that movie.
I want to circle back to this concept, though, Eddie, because so for those that have grown up, or not just those that have grown up, but those that are currently, as you mentioned, at the desk trading, this concept of that your trading computer matters. Like, let's go into that topic a bit and what you found.
Yeah. So kind of like, I think a lot of traders, especially newer traders, and sometimes older guys, because look, I'm 56 now, and the technology is coming at us at a level that's very hard to process. This whole thing with AI, the speed of advancement is overwhelming for everybody. That's true. But when it comes to, if you're going to trade from home or in a home office remotely, you need to have a piece of technology that can support what's available. And so I guess the best way to explain it is I think the biggest mistake that people make regarding trading is they just don't realize the sheer massive level of real-time data your computer needs to take in, and it needs to process it immediately, like spot on real time.
Yeah.
So the analogy I like to use is, think if you were trying to stream 10 Netflix movies at the same time.
Yeah.
So you turn on your TV, you click on your Netflix app, what happens? You get the little spinny wheel for a few seconds, maybe 15 seconds, and then all the thumbnails load up. So during that 15 seconds, it's doing something called buffering. And it's loading all those thumbnails in the background. So when you hover over them, they start playing, kind of fooling you into thinking everything's happening in real time. But there's that buffering, that delay.
For sure.
If you're trading, so if you are using a trading application and you are a full-time trader, you're definitely going to sit in front of the computer a couple hours a day staring at the markets, looking at charts and stuff. You can't have buffering. As your data from price information comes in, your computer needs to turn it into charts and indicators and all your prices. And a lot of these trading applications are pretty resource intensive, but that data of pricing needs to be spot on instant, because if you're using some trading methodology or some formula for trading or a rules-based system, if your data is old and you're making decisions, it could be just a couple like milliseconds off or 1 to 2 seconds off because of like a bottleneck. Your computer's not powerful enough to process all that information at the exact same time. It's going to throw off your whole system. So for example, let's say you're trading Apple. You put in an order to buy Apple at $220.15. And that's where it's trading. You click market order and you wind up getting a fill. You get executed at $220.80, way above what you expected.
Yeah.
Once that happens, when you're a trader and you get annoyed, once you get triggered emotionally, it triggers your fight or flight response. And once you trigger your fight or flight response, you don't use your logical brain anymore. You're either going to fight, you're going to get annoyed, you might punch the screen. That's an exaggerated expression, or you might curse at the screen. But the minute you get those emotional juices, it's like road rage. You don't make good decisions, and then it can spiral out of control. You make a number of bad decisions. You get a number of losing trades in a row. The point is that when you're trading, you need to try to maintain like a Zen-like space in your mind, because you're making decisions. And the minute your fight or flight response gets triggered, I mean, like the last thing you need when you're trading is a computer problem or slow execution speeds or stuttering or the computer freezes. And so like a lot of they start trading, they'll either start on their phone or they'll start on a regular store-bought laptop, for example, like a $4.99 special at Best Buy. And they don't realize that thing's designed for Facebook and Instagram and Microsoft Word. It's not designed to take in that level of data, turn it into real-time indicators and charts spot on. So that's really the biggest issue I think traders face.
Yeah. And so looking at this, like, talk to me about the solution and talk about Easy Trading Computers and really just some of the benefits you bring to the table.
Sure. So the solution is to make sure that you have a computer that can handle that level of data and do all those calculations in real time. So I'll just give you like a short checklist of the important things you definitely want to have if you're going to trade the financial markets. So the very first one is make sure you have a rock solid internet connection, which is obviously not something that we provide, but it's something that's pretty easily solvable these days. If you're going to trade, don't cheap out with the slowest speed. It shocks me how often I see folks say, well, I only get 50 megabits per second because the next tier up's an extra $30 a month. I'm like, really? You're a trader. This is money. Like, you want to give yourself the very best tools. So internet connection's a big one. You want to be wired into your router. Wireless does work, but it is incrementally slower. There can be connection interference. It's much better than it used to be. But the further you are away from that router, if you're using like a laptop, the slower that speed's going to be and the more chances of interference. So those are two easy things that are outside of what we do. But I try to make sure everybody knows that that's level one. Then you want to make sure you're running a computer that has a very fast processor. The processor is the engine of the computer. And so you want like the 500 horsepower Corvette running that motor in your computer. And so the most powerful processors right now are the Intel Ultra 9 series and the AMD Ryzen 9 9000 series. Those are really the fastest processors and can get it done. Then you also want the second big component that's important is to have a strong graphics processing unit, also known as a video card. Now, it's not because we're gamers, because we're not gamers, but as it turns out, when it comes to AI is processed using graphics processing units, GPUs. And even though right now, when you go to ChatGPT or Grok or any of these other, all the processing is done in the cloud. Eventually, we're going to have our own AI models right on our own machines that we're not going to want to share the cloud. And having a good NVIDIA, I recommend NVIDIA 4000 or 5000 series graphics cards. It has the technology to handle all that. And some of the trading platforms now are taking advantage of the graphics as well. So the CPU, the processor, also known as the CPU, and then the GPU, the graphics processor, very important. Those are the two most important things. And if you're wired up and you have a fast internet connection, I could list off more things, but those are like the big four that can get you into trading. So what we do at Easy Trading Computers is I have pre-designed several models that fit these, not what I call non-negotiables. I think those four things are non-negotiable. We've already set them up. A lot of these computer websites, if you go to even if you go to Dell.com or you go to some gaming website, when you go to maybe start shopping for a computer, it turns into a Cheesecake Factory menu. I don't know if you've ever been to Cheesecake Factory or to any.
It's infinite.
The menu's like 20 pages long. And if you go there with your person and they take forever to decide because there's too many things, those types of menus, when it comes to building a computer, you go to Dell, they're asking you all kinds of questions. Most people don't know. They know they want a strong computer for trading, but they're not geeks. They don't even know what they're being upsold. And so what I try to do is the opposite, make it easy. I've pre-designed these. I've been trading forever. We can upgrade anything you want, but we try to explain everything in plain English to people. I've even put together a guide, the complete guide to trading computers, which folks can find on easytradingcomputers.net, letter E, letter Z, tradingcomputers.net, where I walk you through everything I'm talking about in plain to understand English, not geek speak. That scares people away. So that's how I try to help folks stay ahead of the curve for trading and the technology.
I see what you're doing. I think it makes a lot of sense. I know we can basically scratch the surface on what you're doing, and especially because those that are trading, they're going to have more follow-up questions, like they're going to want to know. I'm sure when you mention 3 to 4 different things that are non-negotiables, they have other questions. How do people follow up? How do they learn more about the computers? How do they connect?
Sure. A couple places to go. You can go to easytradingcomputers.net, letter E, letter Z, tradingcomputers with an S.net. And you'll see right on our homepage and in the footer, you can get the complete guide to trading computers. I'll send you a PDF. If you go to my YouTube channel, Eddie Z Trading, you go to YouTube, just type in Eddie Z Trading. I have tons of videos where I explain the technology in really easy to understand language. I try to be funny. I don't know how funny I am, but I enjoy doing it. There's a lot of info there. We're a real business. I am against AI chatbots. So if you come and click my chat, you're going to get one of my team to your question. You can call us at 800-387-5250. It's all my team. We don't outsource any of the services that we provide. Because I get it. People who are trading, they really want to focus on the trading part. They don't need to geek out. They want to focus on the trading part, and we're here to help people. And another part of that, I'll just mention, and I'm not trying to be salesy, but I will say we do provide lifetime tech support to people who purchase from us. It's my in-house team. I call it a premium level of tech support. Have you ever tried to call like Dell tech support? Yeah. It's not a fun experience. Ours is, we have people on standby to help you if you get hosed up somehow.
That's great. And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Eddie, thanks again for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Total pleasure.